All right, session 5 is Graceful Exit today, and we learned a little bit from our video, and we're in real problems, and we can't solve them, then we need to call on the middle schoolers to help us out. The struggle is real, some good stuff there, right? So we are looking at Book of Discipline, and now Graceful Exit, and just kind of an overview of that. So let me just share a little bit of history, because before we know where we're going, we need to look at where we've been. And we really had a wonderful 2017 with a group of folks that helped us celebrate our 200th year. And so we started in 1817. There was no United Methodist Church at the time. It was a Methodist Episcopal Church. And also the Indiana Conference, when it was formed, the very first session of the Indiana Conference was at Wesley Chapel when we were down on, it was before Market. I think it was before Market, because the Market Street was built it was on Market, but it was a different building on Market. So we built on Market because they tore down the church and built another church on Market Street. So it was the Market location, but not the one that got torn down in 1962. Bill's got all the history if you want to know it. I mean, he's our historian, does a great job. Yeah, he's correcting me. All right, so the Methodist Episcopal Church, and the reason I give you this is some people are comparing where we are right now to 1844, when the Methodist Episcopal Church split into two over the issue of slavery. The North, which was abolitionist, and the South, which was pro-slavery. And even though that got settled in a civil war in the 1860s, it still took a long time before the Methodists got together on that. So a long time after Civil War. In 1939, the North and the South came back together, and once again, we were one church. In 1968, we merged with a different denomination, the Evangelical United Brethren Church, in 1968. And that's where we get the name United Methodist, united from the Evangelical United Brethren, and Methodist Episcopal, we just stayed with the Methodist. So we're not the Methodist Church, because that would be a denial of a whole denomination that merged with us. We are the United Methodist Church. And so there's a little bit of the history that might play in today. Now, as far as Book of Discipline, there is Graceful Exit. And you should have a worksheet there, or a presentation that has these two pieces of the Book of Discipline. And this is one that becomes problematic when we start to make any decisions, because the way that the United Methodist Church is structured, every piece of property at every local church, every conference level, district level, jurisdictional level, global level, is part of the United Methodist property. We might be the ones that funded it. We might be the ones who are paying the monthly payment, but we are Wesley Chapel United Methodist Church. And that part of our name means that we are linked to a global church. And so our checking account, every dollar, and every piece of property that we own belongs to the United Methodist Church. And so those two pieces, 2501, all properties of United Methodist local churches and other United Methodist agencies and institutions are held in trust. So we refer to this as the trust clause. So we are holding them in trust for the benefit of the entire denomination. And ownership and usage of church property is subject to the Book of Discipline. Then 2549.4 Point B, if the annual conference closes a local church, title to all the real and personal, tangible and intangible property of the local church shall immediately vest in the annual conference board of trustees, who shall hold said property in trust for the benefit of the annual conference. So Graceful Exit, just for instance, if there was nothing changed at the special conference, there would be no vote to leave the United Methodist Church. That is not a vote that would be taken. The vote that would be properly before us, if this is the direction we would want to go, would be to close Wesley Chapel United Methodist Church. Once we decided to do that, we could organize and have a vote and become something different. But it also means we would forfeit all of our property and everything in the checking account, okay, without a graceful exit. So that's why graceful exit is being proposed, so that another alternative is possible. So graceful exit proposal. Legislations will be presented at the 2019 General Conference to allow an entity, which would be a local church, an annual conference, just anything within the United Methodist Church, to exit the denomination, allowing the property to be transferred from the denomination to the entity. So when people ask me the question, will we be able to take our church with us, the question itself is invalid, because it's not our church locally, it's our church collectively. And so it's like, I don't know what it's like, but that's what it is. So an entity could either be a local church or an annual conference. Okay, just from there. Yep. Oh, they get the debt too. No, they get the debt. They get the debt. They get the debt. Yes. Yeah, that's a real important part. Yeah, we have property worth a lot more. Yeah, 1.7 million is our debt. We have a property that we know is worth 9, but if it got assessed today, it might be worth more. Yeah. All right. Yes, the parsonage is included in that. Okay. Go to the next slide. I don't have very many slides on this one. So here are 4 possible outcomes at the 2019 February session of the General Conference. I wrote these outcomes. When I go back and I reread these outcomes, it's confusing to me, even after I've written them. I know what they say. So I know it's a little confusing, but there's kind of like, it could be yellow and blue, yellow and green, green and red, red and blue, red and yellow. It's really one of those situations. So we've got a couple things. So retain current language on same-sex marriage. That is a possible outcome. So no changes to same-sex marriage. And we could do that and allow a graceful exit. We could change the language and allow same-sex marriage and allow a graceful exit. So both things possibly could be passed. We could retain current language on same-sex marriage and not change the trust clause. We could change the language and allow same-sex marriage and not change the trust clause. All right? So different things are at play. One, we could change the language or not change the language. That is not dependent upon whether there's a graceful exit or not. So those are completely separate pieces. And I don't know. I'm starting to get confused explaining it. I don't know if you're more confused or not. But the reason I put that up there is the traditionalist plan is saying we keep the language and we allow a graceful exit. So the traditionalist plan says, number 1, retain current language on same-sex marriage and allow graceful exit. No one is proposing number 2, but it could still happen. Retain current language on same-sex marriage and not change the trust law. That's current, the current, and not change the trust clause. So that would be half of the traditionalist plan. And then the 4th one, change language to allow same-sex marriage and not change the trust clause. So that would put us, number 4, would put if a church believes that changing the language on same-sex marriage is something that the church cannot live under, and they want to discontinue being a United Methodist Church, and the trust clause is not changing, that means we do not take our property with us. All right? So those are the possible outcomes here. And there may be more than that. Those are just the ones I'm thinking through in my head. So the next slide, just to share unofficial UMC organizations within the United Methodist Church. So we have what we call a Wesleyan Covenant Association, which is a group of United Methodists. It is not a United Methodist organization, so here the difference here. If United Methodist has a group that's sanctioned by the denomination, then it's part of the United Methodist Church. But there are people who are United Methodists who form a group, not necessarily done by the denomination, but they form a group and they're like-minded. And that's what's happened in these two groups. So you have Wesleyan Covenant Association that wants to keep the language. You have Reconciling Ministry Network who wants to change the language. So they're not lobby groups, but they function somewhat as lobby groups, trying to share with each other. I wanted to give Amy an opportunity. She has done a lot of research on the Wesleyan Covenant Association, and so she's going to share with us a little bit about that. And I have your microphone turned on.
Okay. The Wesleyan Covenant Association began a little over 2 years ago and was birthed by a group of concerned United Methodists who saw that change was coming and wanted to provide a place for Spirit-filled Orthodox churches of Wesleyan theology and their members to prepare for and live into a positive and fruitful future. The WCA also wanted to provide a unified response to the Bishop's Commission on the Way Forward. They acknowledge that it is important to plan ahead and that the plans need to uphold the authority of Scripture as well as provide a framework for vital, growing churches that are making disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. Today, the WCA provides a place of connection, encouragement, and resources for clergy, laity, congregations, regional chapters, and bishops. The Wesleyan Covenant Association has grown in this 2 years to have member churches as well as many lay and clergy members. And the WCA Council has representatives from every jurisdiction in the United States and from the Democratic Republic of Congo, Liberia, Zimbabwe, and the Philippines. The WCA affirms the work of other renewal groups such as the Confessing Movement, Good News, and Action. When I first heard about the WCA, I wanted to know more, and I wanted Wesley Chapel to have information we might need for the future. I attended the first global gathering in October 2016 in Chicago. We had laity and clergy from across the United States and Africa at the meeting, and Africa representatives told us they were with the WCA. I joined the Wesleyan Covenant Association then, and yes, there is a fee to be a WCA member of $100 a year. In 2017, I went to a gathering in Memphis, and I got to witness clergy who felt alone and unsupported make connections with other churches in their jurisdictions. I got to hear of the difficulties they experienced and the lack of support they felt from their bishops. And I also learned some of the things that led to the UMC to get to the point it is in now. As a member of the WCA, I was elected last year by the Indiana WCA chapter to be one of 5 people, 2 clergy and 3 lay, representing Indiana as a delegate for the first legislative gathering on November 2nd. There were 161 delegates, including 9 international delegates, and there were delegates from every annual conference in the United States. I also attended the global gathering on November 3rd at Mount Bethel in Marietta, Georgia, and this gathering was attended by people from all over the globe, including United Methodists from Russia, Korea, and the African continent. And this event was live streamed in some locations, and over 2,400 people attended in person or by live stream. At the legislative session, we worshiped, prayed, and went to work on the business set before us, and we voted and approved a resolution declaring the position of the WCA on the matters to be considered by the Special General Conference. We urged the delegates to vote for the traditionalist plan with modifications and vote for a gracious exit. We urged the delegates to vote against the one church plan and the simple plan. We adopted the Statement of Doctrinal Standards after discussion and amendments, and 158 out of 161 voted to approve doctrinal standards and decided the opening statement preceding this document is this: the Bible as Holy Scripture is the primary authority for faith, morals, and service, against which all others must be measured. Yet through the church, the Holy Spirit has spoken in the form of authoritative statements of teaching that are biblically grounded, crucial to spiritual formation, consonant with the rule of faith, and which has stood the test of time. We discussed, amended, and voted on a document of fundamental features and principles of a new Methodist denomination. This document states, in the event that a special called 2019 General Conference results in circumstances where churches, laity, and clergy desire to migrate to a new Methodist denomination, the Wesleyan Covenant Association intends to offer a structure and strategy to fulfill that need. We offer this statement to outline fundamental features and principles that would define such a new denomination. There were 13 paragraphs following the statement, and this document was approved by the 152 delegates. We also voted for and approved the following affirming statement. We long for and are working for a church that offers radical hospitality and genuine community to all persons. And while we affirm the orthodox biblical view of sexuality and gender, we also welcome all persons to the redemptive grace of Jesus who are committed, and we are committed to being a place of refuge and community for all who experience brokenness. We voted on and adopted a resolution for empowering preparations for next steps by approval of 157 delegates, which stated, the mission of the Wesleyan Covenant Association includes preparing for next steps once the 2019 Special General Conference of the UMC has acted on the legislation before it. In order to prepare for every eventuality, the Global Assembly authorized the formation of a working group to envision a revitalized Methodist movement within, or if necessary, outside the Church. The task of the working group would be to develop and recommend a structure for such a revitalized Methodist movement. At the legislative gathering, the African delegates wanted to make it very clear to everyone there that whatever develops from the WCA would have to be Methodist, that the word Methodist is very well known, and the people in Africa know what Methodist means, and calling the denomination by another name would not work in Africa. I'm thankful the WCA is making action plans to be prepared for our future, and that there are people who see the levels of dysfunction and want to promote positive changes. Perhaps the votes at the Special General Conference will go towards maintaining our current language. If that happens, then the WCA would have legislation ready for the 2020 UMC General Conference in Minneapolis. The WCA does have a way for churches to be WCA churches. It costs the church $1.50 a member per year to join the WCA, and then the WCA would provide resources and advice needed to those congregations. Being a WCA church does not mean the pastor's automatically a member. The WCA requires pastors to be individual members. Individuals, clergy, and churches who become WCA members have to affirm the beliefs of the WCA. Now, you can get more information about the WCA on the website, wesleyancovenant.org. There's video resources on there about some of the things I've attended. And I want to encourage you, if you feel led to become an individual member of the WCA, the more members we have in Indiana, the more delegates we get for the next legislative gathering. And also, just for your information, next Friday evening and during the day Saturday, our Indiana chapter is hosting a conference at Mount Auburn UMC in Greenwood on reclaiming prayer. Friday night, we're going to have an evening of worship and guided prayer for the 2019 General Conference. And then on Saturday, author Terry Teckle is speaking about mobilizing the local church to pray and win the lost. So there's a cost for Saturday. Friday's free, but the cost for Saturday is $50 if you sign up online and $60 at the door. So does anybody have any questions about the WCA for me? Okay. If you want information after I have to leave in a little bit, Debbie Smith's got, if you want to see what a form looks like to be a member, she's going to have those available after, because I can't be here, so thank you, Debbie. Bill? All right. Appreciate it. You're welcome. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Amy. Yep. Amy's got to go to the airport in a little bit, so I'm glad we were on task enough so she could get that presentation in. There's also another group called the Reconciling Ministry Network. Reconciling Ministry Network is primarily wants to make sure that United Methodist Church is inclusive of all people. So they're working toward that goal. Their emphasis would be, they would also claim, their claim would that they would be biblical and spirit-led, and that their primary motivation here is to make sure no one is discriminated against, including members of the LGBT plus community. So this is also a group of United Methodists that is working within our denomination. They would advocate the simple plan. The simple plan would be abolishing all language that has anything negative about the LGBT community. They would abolish the line, the practice of homosexuality is incompatible with Christian teaching. They would abolish the exclusion of pastors and allow practicing gay and lesbian to be pastors. They would, they're working towards same-sex marriage in every church to be fully inclusive in that. As a General Conference delegate, I have had the opportunity, I've pursued the opportunity, one, to meet with anyone that wants to meet with me, and to also attend some Wesleyan Covenant Association meetings as well as Reconciling Ministry Network. And I can tell you that there's not evil entities. It's not one is good and the other's bad. This is not Star Wars. The folks who are part of the Reconciling Ministry Network love God and love people. They just have differences with the people of the Wesleyan Covenant Association. Also, without knowing everybody here at Wesley Chapel, we cannot assume that every person who attends Wesley Chapel is on one side. There's a spectrum of how we approach this here at Wesley Chapel, and that's one of the things I love. We've created an environment where it doesn't matter what you believe, you're welcome here, you're safe here, and we're not trying to throw anyone out because they don't align with the leadership or the majority. But that is there. I have some dear friends that are part of the Reconciling Ministry Network, and they feel just as passionately about these issues as the folks who are, as the statement said that Amy read, passionate about biblical standards. I do know that the folks who are part of the Reconciling Ministry Network would be for the one church plan, but they would say that falls short of the true desire. The true desire is that every United Methodist Church in a denomination would be open and fully inclusive with all the LGBTQ community. So I wanted to give a little bit of that side and let you know that you can also find more information. They have a website, just Reconciling Ministry Network, and you can go to the website and find out more of what they believe. Also, Wesley Covenant Association has lots of documents. They're all posted on their website as well. So two major distinctions about direction, vision and direction for both of these. So one of the things that Amy read was the Wesleyan Covenant Association has an alternative plan if the Book of Discipline would change, and if same-sex marriages and same-sex pastors, if all that was approved and all the negative language would be removed from the Book of Discipline, that the Wesleyan Covenant Association has plans in place to start a new denomination. So when we look at the topic of graceful exit, if you are of the mindset, some of us are of the mindset that if the Book of Discipline changes, then Wesley Chapel should exit the denomination, then what does that look like and where do we land? We could land independently, or we could land with the Wesleyan Covenant Association, which is not what the name of it would be, because it would have to have the word Methodist according to the African bishops. So that's one plan. Or if the language changes, we could just stay and work within the United Methodist Church. That's a possibility. The Reconciling Ministry Network has no such plan. They have no desire to exit the denomination if the language stays the same. They are an advocacy group that is willing to continue to be United Methodist and work towards the goal of every United Methodist Church being fully inclusive. And so they'll be with us as long as they need to until that happens. So they're for the one church plan as a step towards the simple plan. So those are the two. There are others as well. Someone showed me the Uniting Methodists is a group within the United Methodist Church, and that is exclusively a group to promote the one church plan, to try to get the one church plan passed, because they believe that's the true path to keep the United Methodist Church together. And so there are some very high-level pastors in the state of Indiana who are doing that, and it's actually an international organization. So it's called Uniting Methodist, and if you want to know everything they know, go to that website, Uniting Methodist. I had not included it on here because it's a different type of organization than what I proposed. All right, yes, Bill. Sure. I had this in the town hall meeting. I had two things in the town hall meeting. I'll just speak to it. You don't have information about it. The one is a letter from the delegates from West Ohio. So the delegates of General Conference, and there are other signatures as well, has asked that the General Conference deal with the issue of graceful exit before they go to anything else. Either pass it or turn it down, instead of passing something else and then going to the graceful exit. So their primary push, and they are for graceful exit, their primary push is that we address that before we address which direction the United Methodist Church is going to go. The other piece that I shared in the town hall meeting is a letter from the bishops of Africa saying that they would not vote for a change to the definition of marriage, which is the traditionalist plan. But there was also in that what I interpreted as they would not vote for a graceful exit. So their desire is to keep the United Methodist Church one entity and keep it as it is. So those are my interpretations of those two pieces. So I'm going to thank those that have been streaming online for watching today, and we wish you the best, and we pray that you would be prayerful. Ask that you pray every day at 2:23. That's a reminder that the special session of General Conference starts on February 23rd. So pray at 2:23 p.m. or a.m., whichever is more convenient for you. And to keep Wesley Chapel in your prayers as well. So we're signing off over live stream, and thank you.